We always like to have the last word, right?
Yeah.
And it was very empowering for me to realize I could just always have the last word as far as I was concerned, right?
That's good.
So like, because I realized I was going back and forth with someone when I was at American Apparel. Like, I sent them this, like, we'd been going back and forth. They did all this, and I was like, laid it all out. I said what I had to say, and then I just didn't get a reply. So I was like, I got the last word. I done. They obviously understood that I eviscerated them, accepted defeat.
I won.
And I won. And then it was like, a couple months later, I had to send them an email about something else. I searched in my inbox for them, and I found out they'd replied. I just hadn't seen it.
You didn't know.
And then I went, I can just not answer this. I can just, I was like, I just had 3 months where I thought I got the last word, but I didn't. It was sitting here. Them getting the last word was sitting here right now. And then I thought, I'm just going to keep it this way.
Right.
I'm not going to open this email.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to give myself the last word, and you know what? I'm going to give them the last word.
Yep.
And by the way, everything's been fine ever since.
Yeah.
And so just the idea of like, hey, I'm going to say what I have to say, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to let that be the end of it. If you want to reply, I'll listen to you. I just don't have to accept it. I don't have to let it get to, I don't have to see in my mind that you somehow beat me or own me or we're now on uneven footings. Like, we just had this argument with someone we paid to do something that's crazy. And then my wife and we went into this meeting. We're like, look, let's just go into this. We know we're right.
Yeah.
We'll let him say whatever he wants. And then we'll get the thing we need done. We'll get the agreement to get the thing we need done. And he can blame whoever he wants. He can vent however he wants. But like, so, he leaves the conversation thinking he's gotten the last word. We left the conversation getting the thing resolved.
Right.
Everybody wins.
Yeah.
You have the ability to do that if you choose.
If you have the discipline for it.
Yes.
Yeah. There's definitely that sense of, and I see it in arguments, the one who has the last word often loses. They're the one that
you paid dearly to get the last word.
Yes, that's exactly right. And when you're not that person, you always look like the bigger person in the argument. And I've done it before at a mediation where it was totally strategic of doing this, where I knew the other side very, very mouthy, very mouthy. And we have these things called opening sessions. You can have to choose them. And I wanted one for this reason. We got together, and of course the other attorney, you kind of had to have your opening statement. Yeah. In other words, other attorney starts going on why their case is so good, why blah, blah, blah. And then their client gets to share a few things and how bad we are, how good they are. And we just let them go. Yeah. We just let them go. And then when they were done, we just said, well, thank you very much. We'd like to take a break. And then we left. Yeah. Like the mediator was in on this. All was good. Yeah. We took a really, really, really long break. And it got to the point where the other side was dying to hear from us. Like had we spoken in that moment, they would never have listened. Yeah. But we got to where we let them be the one that had the last word, so to speak. And then we waited like 4 hours until we wanted to come back. Yeah. And by that time, they were like dying to hear what we were going to say. Right. And so whenever you can add that distance between what they say and when you respond, like that's all the control right there. Because there's some people that they just want the fight. Yeah. Like there are people that were raised in these really bad environments. I say bad environments. Sure. Maybe not as productive environments where they go, argue with me. I need to feel like you're in it with me. I need to, they like it. They have to have the argument. Yeah. And in many ways, when you feel like you always have to have the last word, you're typically the one that has to apologize first. Yeah. I feel like that's what's going to happen. Yeah. You use the word discipline. I think like the discipline to say like, the discipline to be able to go, I'm pissed off. What you're doing is unjust. It's unfair. But I don't need this thing. Yeah. I'm going to like how many business partner disputes almost invariably just buy the person out. Yeah. What is the amount of money that will make this go away? Yeah. There is almost no chance that litigating this thing will end better for either of you. Never does. And certainly it will take longer. So what is the amount of money? Right. Now, look, are there some cases where you have to demonstrate a credible threat that you're willing to litigate so they don't just get to pick an unlimited number? Sure. But like
if you go into it knowing, hey, I'm not going to allow this to, it takes two to fight, so I'm not going to allow this to ever become that thing.
Right.
That takes a lot of discipline. Like people think the civil rights movement was these people protesting and then just getting, attacked. The amount of discipline that they had trained themselves in to not fight back was incredible. And they went to schools there were schools that they went to. And then
unreal.
There were like training sessions where they would practice, like one person would be the white person and the other person would be the black person. And often when there were sort of diverse civil rights protest groups, the white people would have to assume the role of the bad guy, the bad white people, and practice saying horrendous shit. So you could actually have exposure to not letting your buttons get pressed as someone is pressing the buttons. And the amount of discipline it takes. I mean, like your most basic, there's this famous scene I talk about it, I think in Discipline Destiny, where Martin Luther King's giving this speech and this man comes on stage and just starts beating Martin Luther King, like in front of 1,000 people. And like, there's this moment where like every biological self-preservation and then also just like that hurt out, when boys are fighting and or wrestling and then it turns into a real fight, like that's happening. And he just had like, people were just amazed at the discipline he has. They said he dropped his hands like a baby. Like they could hear like fist on flesh and you like, we don't properly qualify that as discipline because it seems like the opposite of discipline,
right?
But that's what it was. To go like, are you done?
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I saw when I was clerking, I was with a local county judge, and there were two attorneys that were in his office, in his chambers, and I was sitting in the corner, and they're just going after it and each other. Two chairs, and there's like, Judge, she did and he did, and they're just going after each other, and he's just listening the whole time, and he just listens, and they get it, and he goes, you done?
Yeah.
You get it all out? And this is time. Y'all get it all out.
Yeah.
All right, thank y'all. Appreciate it. And then they took off. Like, right, that was it. There's something to be said for, and I think you put it wonderfully, these moments where someone decides to walk on the pier. It's their bad behavior. It's that thing that they said that really, let's say it's a derogatory, offensive, it's an insult. They're walking themselves out on a ledge. And you could either decide to ratchet it up or just let them be exposed. Like exposure of that kind of behavior is frightening to them when you can put that spotlight.
Sure, it's a very vulnerable place to suddenly be.
Extremely. And so when, for example, like when somebody, how I teach, if somebody says something that's condescending, and if you can, instead of being direct with it, you kind of treat it as like water, like it's not affecting you. You could say something as simple as, how do you feel when you say that to me? Or did you mean for that to sound rude? I mean, it just puts such a spotlight on their behavior that now, without you having to do anything, it's kind of, you're dropping your hands and letting their behavior be the one that speaks.
There's a story about Frederick Douglass. He's trying to get on some stagecoach or train, and he's traveling in this party of people, and there goes, you got to go to the back of the car, right? You're not allowed up in the front. And one of the white members of the party, I'm so sorry, you've been degraded in this manner, this is horrible. And he goes, these people don't have the power to degrade me.
Yeah.
He said, I'm Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
And so it feels disempowering to like let someone speak to you a certain way, or let someone treat you a certain way, to allow certain things to go on. And it's actually incredibly empowering. I mean, the self-command and self-confidence you have to go like, it doesn't matter where I sit on this car.
Right.
That doesn't change. Now, that doesn't mean you accept the injustice of it legally. Yeah. Clearly, his whole life is dedicated to overturning all of these things and seizing his basic rights as a human being. I mean, this is a guy who beats the shit out of his own overseer and realizes, this is a famous story he tells in his memoirs, he beats the shit out of the guy who was about to whip him, and he says, the day I realized that I would not be whipped anymore was the day I became half free. Right. So this is not a guy who just endures abuse, but he just realizes that external things have no purchase or power over sort of who we are. And so I think when you can have this sort of confidence and accept the empowerment of like, I'm okay with you being wrong. I'm okay with you thinking that about me.
Yeah.
I'm okay with you, trying X, Y, or Z, because I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I have confidence in my ability to sort of figure this out. That's a pretty magical / powerful and I think inspiring place to come to life through.
I think anytime you can have that mindset of knowing who you are and being in that purpose, you're always going to talk and communicate from a position of strength. There's a difference of me saying, you can't talk to me that way, versus I don't accept the way you're talking to me.
Yes.
Like that's very much such a mindset of what I'm trying to control versus you can behave how you want. That's not what I do.
Well, this is the definition of Stoicism, the idea that you can't make them not do it.
Right.
But you can make yourself not react to it or be... Like the worst thing that would happen, the Stoics would say, is not that somebody says something horrible to you and then you allow yourself to be harmed by that. That's sort of the first failure. Mm-hmm. Like that somebody said something and you decide to interpret it as rude and now your feelings are hurt because you're a fragile little snowflake. That's a failure of Stoicism. But the second failure of Stoicism, of your Stoicism, would be somebody says something to you or does something to you, and then you become a different person in getting revenge or showing them, hey, you can't talk to me that way.
Right.
That's where we actually truly get harmed, is when this person who they are the party in the wrong, in the divorce, the business dispute, the legal thing, whatever, they are wrong. But then if they turn you into this person that you don't even recognize, like then they've truly won.
Right.
Like if you become that embittered, angry, consumed person because of it, like they definitely won.
Yeah, I think that there's this sense of you never give them a reason to make you feel less or to make you feel like you are degrading your character.
Yeah.
There's that idea, I forgot who said it, is if you argue with a fool, like onlookers won't know the difference.
Oh, I like the one, if you argue with a fool, they'll call you foolish. Or if you talk sense to a fool, they'll call you foolish.
Exactly. Yeah. It's that. Yeah. It's, you have to remember, they think they are just as much as right.
Sure.
As you think you're right.
Yeah.
And so when you set out to win that argument, you're only tightening the knot. Yeah. And the worse things you say to each other, the harder you pull, it is always the longer it takes to heal.
Sure.
Or longer it takes to untie that knot. And sometimes it takes years.
Yeah.
There are family members who haven't spoken to each other in years. I'm talking mother, daughter, dad, son. I mean, just for years, don't talk to each other because at some point in time, they pulled on that knot and decided this is the only direction I'm going.